Hello class and welcome back. Today we're going to start section 3, which is we're going to talk about simple interest. And this is it's the simplest interest that you can calculate. It's very straightforward. This will probably be very easy for most of you, if not all of you, to grasp. Um, this is just calculating interest in certain situations, like a simple interest loan, or if you do interest like you borrow money from a friend and they charge you interest on that loan. It's most of the time it's just a simple interest loan. Okay, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about how to calculate simple interest, and we're going to use the future value, also how to use the future value formula. Um, but you don't need to know the future value formula, as you'll see, but it helps. So interest is the dollar amount that we get paid for lending money, or it's the amount that you pay for borrowing money. The amount of money that we deposit or borrow is called the principal. Okay? The amount of interest depends on the principal, and it also depends on the interest rate, okay, which is given as a percent, and it varies from bank to bank. Okay? And the length of time for which the money is deposited or borrowed, okay, is going to be important too. Now, simple interest involves interest calculated only on the principal. It doesn't matter. Um, it doesn't matter about any other interest. So you're not. It's only what the principal amount is. Okay, so it doesn't have any other factors involved, except it's just calculated on whatever the principal amount that you either borrowed or deposited. And so the interest formula for calculating simple interest is very easy. The interest is going to be the principal amount times the rate times the time. Now the time is usually in years, okay? But it depends on the rate. So whatever the rate is, the time is always going to have the same units as whatever the rate is. So if the rate is annual rate, then your time is going to be in years. If it's a monthly rate, then time is going to be in months. So those will always match. Okay, so be careful because sometimes they'll give you the rate and the time in two different um, units, and you'll have to make them match. Okay, otherwise you'll get the wrong answer. So it's interest equals PRT, principal times rate times time. Okay, and these are usually in annual terms. So the rate is usually annual, and this is usually number of years. Okay, so let's look at this example here. So you deposit $2,000 into a savings account at Hometown Bank, which has a rate of 6%, which is phenomenal. Okay, find the interest at the end of the first year. So the first year, the interest rate is going to be what? 6% of the $2,000 that you deposited. So the interest rate would be 2,000 times 0.06. And so now the time is 1 year. So it's just going to be $120. Now, that means it's going to be $120 every single year. Because remember, simple interest only depends on the principal amount. Okay? And so notice that if you wanted to do it over, let's say, 5 years, then you would just replace this with 5. Because what you're doing is you're taking this amount and you're adding it over and over again for the number of years. Okay, so that should make sense. Now, here a student took out a simple interest loan for $1,800 for 2 years at a rate of 8% to purchase a used car. It says find the interest on the loan. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find the interest for the first year or for 2 years. Okay, so we're going to use the interest formula. So principal times rate times time. So I equals PRT. So it's the amount that you're borrowing times the annual interest rate in this case times the number of years. And so the total amount is 288. So notice that 8% of 1,800 is $144. So it's just $144 added twice. Added to itself once, I should say. Now, what about future value? Well, the future value of an account, A, of P dollars that is invested at an interest rate of R, again, as a decimal point, we always use decimals when we're dealing with rates and percentages, right? We always change it to a decimal. For T years is given by this formula. Now think about this. All we're doing, let me change this here. So all we're doing is we're taking the principal amount that we started with and we're adding the interest. Right? Because that's supposed to be equal sign. Because P equals, what's I? Well, I is what? I equals PRT. Okay, so all I did now here, guess what? Now I can factor out the P and I get this. So the accumulated amount or the future value is just the principal amount plus the interest that you earned. Okay, or in other words, the amount that you pay on a loan, the loan's present value would be the principal amount that you borrowed plus the amount of interest you paid on the loan. So either way, this is the future value of the account or the loan amount. Okay. So now we have a loan of $1,060 has been made, and it's a 6.5% interest for 3 months. Okay, now we want to find the loan's future value. Okay, so think about this. So now P is 1,060. R is 6.5. Well, that's annual, right? So we need time to be in years. Okay, that means we cannot use 3 months. We have to put this in years. Well, 3 months is 1/4 of a year. So this is where we would use 1/4, not 3. If you were to use 3 in this case, it would be absolutely wrong. So we want to use 0.25 or 1/4 in our calculations. Okay. So now if we wanted to find the future value, then we're going to use our formula or just use principal plus interest, right? And then use the interest formula. So it's going to be 1,060 times the quantity 1 plus the rate times the number of years, which is 1/4 of a year. And so this would give us the correct answer, which the final value or the future value would be $1,077.23. So in other words, how much interest did we pay then? Well, it's going to be this amount minus our principal, which was 1,060. That means we paid $17.23 in interest. Okay, now what about this one? Here it says you borrowed $2,500 from a friend and you promised to pay back $26.55 in 6 months. So the question is, what is the simple interest you will pay? So okay, so you borrow $2,500 and you promise, you know what, I'm going to pay back $155 more than what I borrowed. Well, what kind of interest are you paying then? Well, in this case here, you have your future value that you're going to pay back. You have your principal, and we need to figure out the rate. So we know it's for 6 months, so that's going to be half a year. So all we do is plug in our values and solve for R, right? So now we plug in all our values, and now we're just going to solve the equation for R. And so we get 2,500 plus 1,250 times R, okay, because we're multiplying by half. So we get 1250 times R, and then we subtract off 2500 from both sides, and we get out 155. And then we divide by 1250, okay? And then R equals 0.124 or 12.4%. And so the simple interest rate for this loan is 12.4%. Okay, and that is the end of the section. So again, it's very straightforward, very easy to calculate. So I hope this was very informational. Please make sure you practice, and we're going to do a lot of problems. But again, if you have any questions, please email me or definitely bring them up in class, and let's work them out together. And we're going to, the more problems you do, the better you're going to have at doing these. And again, make sure you practice these because you are not going to be able to use a note card on the exam. Okay, so you're going to have to require to make sure you understand and know these formulas. And the best way, and one of a good way to learn these is by using them over and over again. And then you just have to make sure that you read the problems carefully so that you know which formula to use, because this is simple interest. Well, we're going to talk about compound interest and some other types of interest that come along with compounding. Okay, so that's different, and those have different formulas. So you're going to want to be able to make sure that when you're reading the problems, that you're reading them carefully so that you apply the right formula. Okay, and that's where practice and drills come in. Okay, until next time, have a great day.